Congressman Bilbray is here from Capitol Hill to talk about some of the things going on. We've got all kinds of things happening. Of course, today the border fence, the construction this week is supposed to start on that. Good morning to you.
Good morning. And the water's over 60 degrees, so I'm ready to get back out and get wet.
Yes, a little surfing, huh?
Yes. Good for you. Good for you. All right, let's talk about this border fence. I guess they're actually supposed to break ground on this thing this week, now that we've gotten through all the environmental loopholes and things like that. Or are we through the environmental loopholes?
Well, the final link is Smuggler's Gulch, and there was a reason why it's called Smuggler's Gulch. And it's always been used by smugglers going all the way back to Prohibition. But the frustration I have with this is the fence needs to get up to keep the bad guys from being able to cross, regardless of what you think about immigration or whatever. But the people that really didn't want to see any fence, they didn't want to see any kind of border control, used environmental regulations to try to block it. And that created a situation where the waiver was put in by Congress. And sadly, in my opinion, is that we could build this fence more environmentally sensitive if those who truly care about the environment had worked on getting the fence built the proper way, rather than getting pulled in by those who are the obstructionists, trying to use the environmental regulations to just stop the fence overall. And so the big challenge I have is working with people who want to save the environment down there to get the fence built in the most environmentally sensitive way without allowing the obstructionists to use the environment as an excuse to stop the project from being done.
Sure. And once it's up, the impact it's going to have on San Diego County?
Well, one of the big impacts it's had is even the fence that's up there now has been a huge boom for the environment down there. You don't have least turn eggs being taken by illegals. You know, there's a going joke down there that until the fence was built, all horse trails ran north and south because the smugglers were out there cutting trails through the habitat all night long. Now you're going to have more of a protected area. The people that live and work down there, my children ride horses down there, they will be safer. And we won't have so many of the Border Patrol running around the area. But as a region, it secures us more. It takes us out of ground zero. Remember the bonsai charges, people drowning. Back when I was a county supervisor, I rescued illegals drowning. Remember the floods in the Tijuana Valley? Yeah. Because it was on the path of illegal immigration and drug smuggling, there was a lot of people that drowned and got in trouble down there, and we had to rescue.
Of course, things are just crazy down there with the drug dealers and the cops shooting each other in the streets, and it's just madness down there. Hey, let's talk about some of these political things. You know, the presidential candidates are talking. John McCain raised this gas tax holiday thing. Immediately, economists all over the world just slammed it as just a big political ploy. What do you think about this gas tax? First of all, it's never going to pass, is it?
Well, I don't think so. The fact is, because anybody in the Senate can block anything. It's the way the Senate operates. We call them the House of Lords in the House of Representatives. But the fact is that giving the consumer some break to where we can do some things that might be able to give relief. Things like, you know, finally allowing some expansion of alternative energy, but also of traditional exploration in areas where the local people want it. But more important, we can eliminate the ethanol mandate that is being forced on under the guise of an environmental reg. When I served on the Air Resources Board for California in '92, we knew this was an environmental problem. But now, with this mandate, you and I are paying $6 a comparable gallon to put ethanol into our gasoline. And this isn't the oil companies forcing us to do it. It's our own Congress, under the guise that it's environmentally friendly. And I think anyone who knows air pollution knows that this is environmentally damaging to the air, knows that it's hurting habitat, and it is causing the price of our food to go up. And so this is one of those things where I'm trying to say, hello, Congress, I know you meant well, but you've made a mistake, and you got to be brave enough to go back and correct it, especially when we're talking about the way it's picking our pocket here. Sure. A lot of little things we can do. The gas tax exemption could be done temporary, help to relieve some of it, but there's a whole lot of other things we got to do. You got to understand, we've been 20 years with no energy policy at all. It's politically easier not to talk about it. We should have been doing CAFE standards. We should have been expanding the fuel mileage. But who would have thought back in the 70s that the status symbol of urban mothers was going to be the Jeep? You know, this loophole has just been driven through with a Hummer. Yeah. And it is just astonishing that we haven't addressed that earlier. Well,
we have you here. Let me ask you about what happened last week at San Diego State, all the arrests of those students, the big drug bust here. You've been here in San Diego for a long time and have ties to the university. What is your reaction to that? And what can we do to stop that from happening at other schools? I mean, it's all over drugs, no doubt. But what is the solution? Do you have any ideas?
Well, let me just say, as having two children who are college age, first of all, I was glad to see that nobody that I knew was involved with it. But on the side this is all related to the fact of colleges are always been a real problem, Marion. It just happens to be young people that have a lot of adult rights but not developed good judgment yet. But our proximity to the border is a very scary thing. And one of the things I'll tell you that proximity to the border, we need to take leadership. Just as much I think San Diego took leadership about immigration, we've got to be brave enough to stand up and say we need to fight these drug cartels in Mexico. And that's why this week I stood up with the president and told the president I will join with you at fighting to get the military aid down to Mexico so we fight these drug cartels in Mexico rather than in the streets of San Diego. And frankly, this is directly related to that drug cartel issue. And it's pretty sad that as somebody who grew up on the border, been in Baja my entire life, this Christmas I took my family to El Salvador rather than Ensenada. I would not go to northern Baja at all now. And I think that this whole thing with the state college problem is tied to this whole thing, that there is a major struggle going down south. And just as we were able to send arms to the Afghanis to fight the Russians, and we sent military equipment to Colombia to fight their drug cartel, we've got to be brave enough politically to stand up and say, no matter how much you feel about Mexico, about immigration issues, helping them fight the drug cartel is essential for the defense of this country, and especially this county.
If we were invited in, I guess.
Well,
I mean, we can't just impose ourselves on
No, and Calderon actually, I have a lot of pet peeves with him, but he has been absolutely extraordinary in the fighting of the cartel. 89 Mexican nationals have been shipped to the United States for prosecution. I ask you, how many American politicians would send our criminals down to Mexico? We were caught, a major drug smuggler was caught down south with American ships going in and getting him. Calderon allowed that to happen. So I think that we ought to pat him on the back and congratulate him when he does the right thing. Still confront him when you think he's doing wrong. But friends do have disagreements, but we also work together.
All right. Congressman Brian Bilbray, thank you so much.
Very good to
Thank you very
see you.
much.
Thank you for stopping by today.
Okay.